Hey there, Smoke Master D coming at you with Barbecue Buyer's Guide to the Vertical Cabinet Pellet Smokers you see here on your screen. Now, I've got some chapter times for you. If you want to skip ahead, please do like this video and subscribe to the channel. Always trying to put out more great content to help you find your next barbecue smoker. And now we're going to look at those product overviews. Starting with Pitboss. Now, these are the ones that come from Walmart. This Pitboss company, it puts out a lot of these things. It makes a lot of variations. And I'm trying to cover some of the main ones that are currently available. This Copperhead 1300 from Pitboss Onyx edition is actually fairly new. It came out in the last few months. It's $474. The Pitboss 5 series here, $647.97. And then we have the Copperhead 7 over there with that is $799.97. Now, I wasn't able to find a cover for the Onyx edition over here on the left. Maybe I should have looked further. Maybe some previous cover will fit that one. I just couldn't find that information, so sorry about that. But I have covers for both of the 5 and 7 series here, and they're both $39.99. All right, and let's take a look at some of these features. Up in the top left corner, you have these rear load hoppers that kind of go down like the entirety of the back of the smoker. And it really makes it so that you can have a lot of pellets in those hoppers, really big hoppers. When we get to the charts, I'll show you just how many for each smoker that we're covering, how many pounds can fit in there. So stay tuned for that. Another feature, they have the pellet viewing window and dump door. So that window just shows you how much pellets you still have in there when you need to refill. The dump door helps you, switch out pellets. Say you want a different flavor, different wood mixture. You can just dump them and put in something else. Now, on the right-hand side, we see some other fairly standard features here. That rain cap that protects the stack. You're cooking in the rain, no rain's going to go down into your stack. Glass window that allows you to see your food as it's cooking. Now, of course, the window is going to get gunked up, pretty quickly if you use the thing a good bit. So that's just one thing to remember. How useful is the window or not? Really depends on how clean you make the window as you're using it. Now, these things come with a water pan down in the bottom, right over the firebox. And you can see that in two different pictures there. And they usually have a heat diffuser, just a piece of metal that just, arches over the fire pot where the pellets are actually burning. Now, the Onyx edition has this baffle that is going to go over the water pan and kind of even out the heat more. Another feature of these pellet smokers is the adjustability of the shelf height. You see those holes in the side. I think, the things that hold the shelves up can be adjusted up and down with those holes. So you can, cook things that are larger or smaller and adjust the space how you want it. It's usually a grease and ash management system. I believe it's one tray in several of these pit bosses. We're going to see a few in a second that have it in different ones, like one each. But I believe that there's a one tray for both grease and ash, especially in these Copperhead ones in the 5 and 7 series. Now, over to the controllers. You're going to notice that the Onyx edition they've set up with something that is a lot more technically advanced than the other two. Maybe why they made it a new offering. It's LCD. It's got PID. So that means PID just means it's going to hone in on whatever temperature you set more more closely than if you had the regular shoot for that temperature, overshoot it, and come back down sort of system. And that allows you to do. Now, the crazy thing is for this Onyx controller, I heard in two different places 10-degree intervals and 5-degree intervals. And you see the picture there, it's on 240, so that really doesn't tell us. If it was 245, we could say, yeah, it is 5-degree intervals. Either way, it'll usually work out. What you'll notice from this picture here for the 5 and 7 series is that those intervals are a good deal larger. You just turn that dial. Can't really see them very well, but I imagine it's probably closer to 25-degree intervals on that. So, will it still cook your food? Yes, it will. Will you have as much control doing it? No, you won't. Does that matter? That's a question you have to ask yourself. Ultimately, I don't know that it matters super much, but having more control is nice. All right, we're moving on to the Platinum Brunswick Wi-Fi enabled wood pellet vertical smoker for $697.97. You see they've got the cover there for $49.97. Some different features here than those other smokers that we just looked at. A storage area on the top of the smoker. First time I saw that, I thought it might be like a small grill, but no, it wasn't. It's just for storage. Apparently, you can keep meat probes in there. Double door. Double door is better than the single door just because it's only letting out half as much heat and smoke when you open one side as opposed to both. So that is, I think, an advantage. Interestingly enough, the controller is on top of that storage door. um, and it is a PID Wi-Fi controller, right? So that means that it will hone in on your temperature really closely, really well, and also you can change the temperature from your phone or device. So that is the first time we've seen that. It's definitely not the last time we'll see it in this show. Uh, There is a night light in the top of this thing. You can see that on the bottom left. We'll see that again too. You got the rear load hopper again. Like I said before, the ash and grease tray are separated in this one, so you can see those two things there. One thing that really sets this one apart from those others is the way that it does its heat and smoke throughout. So it's got that baffle plate over the water tray again, and that is meant to cut off all smoke and heat coming up. And the smoke and heat actually comes up through the walls. And you can see in this top right picture how that double wall is where the smoke is coming up and it comes back down out through those vents into the main chamber. And the purpose of that is to make it a lot more even heating throughout the chamber. It'd be interesting to do some sort of like biscuit test or probes test to see just exactly what the distribution of heat is throughout this thing. But that is the purpose of that feature. And just from a standpoint of design, I think it's a good one too. Now we're getting to the Lowe's ones. The thing about Pitboss is that they make lines exclusive for certain people, for certain companies. Like they'll go to Walmart and they'll say, "Hey, we're gonna make you these smokers, and they'll just be for you, and nobody can get them anywhere else." And then they'll go to someone else like the Lowe's, and they'll do the same thing. And so you have a bunch of products that are very similar, but they won't be the same. And they have the Pro Series over at Lowe's, and the Pro Series is exclusive to Lowe's, and it has some similar features and some, that are a little bit different. In general, I think they're maybe a little bit better, but we'll have to see. So we've got the Pro 1077 there for $499, which is a fairly good price, I think. Then we got the Pro 1529 in stainless steel. All right. And that is $899. So one of the most expensive Pitboss ones we're going to take a look at. All right. And here, one of the first things you're going to notice if you look at that top right picture is that the whole venting system that we just talked about for the Brunswick, they have here as well. When they do this exclusivity thing, it doesn't keep them from, using the things that they have on one in another, and we see that here. If we look at the PID Wi-Fi controllers, you'll see the one on the top left. That is the one for the smaller, cheaper model, and it's just there on the side. You've got that knob that turns and changes things. Now, the controller for the 1529, the more expensive one, is more complex and more interesting, truthfully. That shelf you can actually fold down, and it'll switch the orientation of the screen for you. Also, it is a touchscreen controller. You have the knob, and you can touch the screen to change things. It is Wi-Fi, and PID. So, really, maybe one of the more technically advanced controllers that we've seen just in general for this style of smoker. Again, we've got the rear load hopper and pellet viewing windows on these things. Ash clean out, one thing I did notice, and this is probably very similar with all of them, these Pitbosses perhaps, is that there isn't a Pro port. I found this, the cheaper of the Pro series, this picture on the bottom right of them just putting the wire in the door and closing it, which, it works, and I'm sure it'll work fine. It's just a little bit janky. Yeah, I put a shot of the rapid igniter there. Is it better than other igniters they use in other of their smokers? I don't know. Maybe. The night lights, which I believe are only on the 1529, they have a light for inside the smoker and for your tray there, which I thought was a good touch. If you do a lot of smoking overnight, maybe, and you don't have good lighting and wherever you're doing it, it could be a really good feature. Now we've got Nexgrill, and they have the Oakford 1400 pellet grill vertical smoker in black for $4.99, and they are out of Home Depot. That's where they sell these things. The cover is $29.99, so one of the cheaper ones. In a lot of ways, this Nexgrill looks like a clone of the Pitboss. A lot of similar features with the rain cap, viewing window there. The probe count, it allows for 4 probes, but only comes with 2. It is PID Wi-Fi, so that's great. You take a look at these slide out racks here. They look fine. Is it a stainless steel interior? Couldn't really tell. Couldn't really tell that from looking at it. It wasn't in the literature for it, so I'm not sure. It has a water pan, locking casters. So all these ones we've looked at before, they have casters, and I think some of them will lock. The reviews on this thing so far aren't super great. You see that 3.7 down. That's from the Home Depot website. And I think this is newer, so should we give it a pass because they're probably working out some of the kinks in the manufacturing side of this thing? I don't know. I've never had the most respect for Nexgrill. They seem to be, on the very cheapest side of production of smokers. So I know there are people who are happy with their Nexgrill smokers, but they always seem to be at the very low end of cost and ability. All right, and now we've got the Camp Chef XXL Pro Wi-Fi vertical smoker. So this has been sold in box stores. Lowe's is out of it right now. They have sold it in the past, but it seems that it is out of stock for them. You can get it at Dick's Sporting Goods or Barbecue Guys. So several places. The Camp Chef website also seems to be out of stock. It's a little strange that you can get it at places besides their website, but not there. That $899.99 price is on the highest end of box store smokers of this kind. but I think for good reason, and we're going to take a look at that. Okay, the first thing that really stands out with this smoker, one of the first things, is the racks. And they give you 4 standard racks, 3 jerky racks, and 12 sausage hooks. So altogether, a good assortment of things. The question that you ask yourself is like, how well is a jerky rack going to work if I want to put something like ribs on it, right? And putting all the racks in here, you're going to notice that the vertical space isn't a whole lot. So something like ribs would work, whereas something like pork butts maybe not. If you use all the racks, so you have to consider that. But yeah, and when I've thought about it, the indentations on the bottom of the ribs would probably be just a little bit different with those jerky racks. How important is that? Probably not very important. So it would probably work fine. But we'll talk a little bit more about what it would take to get other racks in there when we talk about the accessories. Now, the most game-changing innovation on this is the smoke box, which when they came out with their new Woodwind Pros, and now this Pro model was one of the main features. And you see the box down there. It has that little grate on the bottom that allows the air in to bottom of the wood chips or wood chunks that you put in there, so that you get that combustion. And I have a little picture of the little knob there, and it's really hard to sort of get with pictures what the knob does, but it is sort of a valve that you turn that opens or closes that box up to oxygen. You can see that little place on the bottom where that little circle and the disc can turn or be pushed back to open up more air and less air. And the amount of air that gets in there will determine the smoke that you're getting in the machine from that, right? More oxygen is gonna make it burn more and have less smoke, and less oxygen is gonna make it smokier, maybe dirtier. So throughout your cook, if you're using that smoke box, that'll be something you're messing with, maybe to good effect, maybe to get a smokier flavor on your barbecue. Some other things, Camp Chef, they have these innovations that they put on all of their smokers. So some standards here: the ash cup at the bottom for easy dumping, the bottle opener, if you want that beverage with while you're cooking. We've got a fold down shelf here, which is not that usual for them, but a good touch. The downward facing vents for the smoke. Hopefully, this thing's going to smoke pretty evenly. The door, I believe, is the only part that is double walled. So material all around is a little bit on the thin side for these smokers. So you may question the heat retention on this thing a little bit. May take some more fuel to keep those temps up, which when you have to burn more fuel for that, it's going to make the smoke thinner. But with the smoke box, you're probably going to overcome that if you choose to. So something to keep in mind. You've got the PID controller there. It's got the knob that's going to help you use it. Looks like a very good controller, facing upward, so you're not squatting down to be able to see it. Very well designed from an ergonomic standpoint that way. All right, and here we have a few accessories. We got the cover there for $59.99. Now, I had to actually email the company to figure this stuff out about the racks. So they have this other product called the Smoke Vault, which I believe is a propane burning smoker. And they use the same racks in the Smoke Vault 24-inch as they do this XXL Pro. Okay? It doesn't say that anywhere. So this may be worth your time watching the video altogether if you want more racks. The Smoke Vault Jerky Rack 24-inch is $37.99, and the 24-inch regular rack is $39.90. So if you wanted, you wanted to fill up your whole smoker, but with different racks, those would be the prices that you would pay. Now we've got the Louisiana Grills. Now, the first thing to know about Louisiana Grills is that they're owned by Danson's, which is the same company that owns Pitboss, which is why it looks incredibly similar to the Pitboss Vertical 7 series. And it is also called the 7 series. Their naming nomenclature of sizing and what have you seems to have gone from one company to the other. This thing is almost $1,000, $999 with shipping or tax. It would definitely be $1,000. Question is it worth that now? So cover is $49.95 at Walmart.com. Had a hard time finding it elsewhere, not on their Louisiana Grills own website. The thing, you can see the glass window, all the stuff that is similar to the Pitboss stuff, the rain shield on the stack, the porcelain coated racks. It basically has almost the same design exactly. Louisiana Grills, the kind of better made versions of Pitboss in a lot of regards. So, is this thing built a little bit better? Perhaps it is. It has a whole lot of space. You're going to see that on the charts when we look at that. They may have put a little bit more weight into this thing. We can see that in charts too. The adjustable latches, I'm not entirely sure about the latches for the Pitboss, but for these ones, you can screw, there's a screwing element, that allows you to modify the tightness of the latches. I just took a screenshot of what they say about this thing. There's not a whole lot about it. There's one picture of this thing on Louisiana Grills website. It doesn't look like they are promoting it very heavy. Not a whole lot of promotional materials out there. Not any YouTube videos out there for me to look at. So either they don't really believe that much in this, they're not pushing it a lot, but it is what it is. You can see that it's not a PID controller, no connection to probes. Looks a lot like the Pitboss controller. You can see the breakdown there again of the intervals of the temperatures. It's got 2 meat probes, 150 to 420. The thing about this Louisiana Grills is it hasn't really caught up technology-wise. In general, I'm not that impressed with this smoker, except for its size. All right, and now we've got the Pellet Pro 2300 vertical double wall cabinet pellet smoker. This is also one that you would buy online, either directly from Pellet Pro, which is my recommendation. They also have it on Amazon. So it's $1599.99, so just about $1,600. They are a company out of Chicago. So very small family-owned business in Chicago, but they do not produce it in Chicago. They do have it manufactured in, I believe it's in China, but it's somewhere in Southeast Asia, I believe. So you have sort of, from a company standpoint, something that's sort of a hybrid between an American small company producer and the price that you get from international manufacturing. All right, some very interesting features on here that I want to cover. The hand height PID controller. So Pellet Pro has been making PID controllers for a good long time. Definitely were ahead of Pitboss for years on that. So they've worked with their own PID to make their controllers. Now the controller is up at almost at shoulder level for you. That's new. So they used to have it there on the bottom where you see that little square. They covered that thing up and put it up higher. And I think that was a good idea. You don't want to be all the way down there at your knees trying to change the temperature on this thing. Now, one thing about this, it doesn't have any Wi-Fi compatibility. You can't can't do anything on it from your phone. They used to have something like that, and I actually had one of their Wi-Fi controllers, but they discontinued it. There was a patent issue, and they just decided to say, no, we're not going to do that anymore. And this is what they have, and it works well. They have a very good PID controller. Now, you said they got 3 temp gauges on there. You can really see the heat distribution. And part of what's going to make that heat distribution what it is whether or not you have the convection fan going. And, I think you get even more even temperatures when you're using that fan. It also plays a really important part if you want to dry out some jerky in there. But for even temperatures, maybe not using it, you can get maybe a hotter spot if you want to do some 2-zone cooking. It's definitely something to play around with. The one picture I believe is what the fan actually looks like inside. And you got that fan box. It's basically just an on-off kind of thing. Got a vent up there on the top of the box, so let some of that heat and smoke out. The rack situation, it comes with 3 racks. I believe you can buy some extra racks for it, but 7 great levels. This rib rack is also included. So uh, the rib rack, it looks really impressive. Let me see. You could get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 8, 9 ribs, racks of ribs on this thing. If you put some on the other grates below that, you could feed a crowd with ribs here. If you got even more of those rib racks, purchased a few more, who knows how many people you could feed with ribs with this Pellet Pro. All right, and some more features: upgraded auger motor with motor mount. Um, One thing that Pellet Pro has been known for is their better than average hardware. In fact, at the very beginning of my YouTube career, they sent me some stuff to upgrade my Pitboss FB700. So, they sell upgraded and better components for pellet smokers. So it's not really a surprise that everything in this thing is really well made and better than some other makers. They have that the motor mount. This thing, it's going to push the pellets. It's stronger than your average motor. It's not going to get clogged up as easily. It's a beast. There's an outlet on the back for extra smoke generator. And since one of the first products they made was a cold smoker, they have that option and they have that outlet there just to make that whole situation work really well with this smoker. Comes with a cover. You got to think, that's at least between $25 and $50 value that they are just giving you. So when you think of that $1,600 price, you got to subtract that. All right, on the bottom right, we've got that storage cabinet. So, you want to keep your pellets in there. I think that could work out really well. Wonder how warm it gets there when you're cooking. And, possibly you could have that as a warming area. Maybe not. Maybe that's not how it works. Just a thought of mine. So I found this picture, the top right one, and I inquired to them about it, and they do not sell any hanging rods. Could probably fabricate some pretty easily, just knowing, the width there, if you wanted to make that happen. But apparently they just went to like Ace Hardware and got these dowel rods and cut them to size to put in there. But it's something you could do too if you wanted to for cold smoking. It's not something they sell, just a possibility and a picture that they put up. All right, now this is everything that is on the page when buying this thing. Some stuff to note that you can get as add-ons. Got the pellets, is first up there. If you want to buy pellets from them, they'll probably stick it in the machine when they ship it to you. $85 or $150. It might be a good deal on the pellets, but it's just something there. Heavy D stick burning heat diffuser. I owned one of these that I used in my Pitboss for adding smoke. I love using whole wood. So the heavy D is definitely something that I've enjoyed having and using. And I know a lot of people use it with this smoker to good effect. So if you want something that is closer to that stick burning taste of an offset smoker, it's a really good way to try to get there. Now, it's not the easiest thing to use, partly because you have to think about how much air is getting to the wood. So sometimes you have to close some of it off, use some lava rocks to make that happen. Um, it can, if done improperly, raise the temperatures of your cooking chamber. It's something you have to play around with a little bit to get right, but the flavor that it will help you achieve will be something I think that's worthwhile for trying it. So an extra $85 for that, and regularly I think they're a bit more. I think they're something like 100 or so. So the big Kahona cold smoke generator. It looks like I put my little line in the wrong one there. But the big Kahona, can see on the bottom left, that is one of the smoke generators I was talking about before, that there was one of their original products. There's a cap in there, you put chips in, it has a little heating element and a little fan, and it'll blow smoke into your chamber, is basically what that does. With an extra $100, I don't know, I can't remember if buying it that way they'd install it or give you the hole for it, or whether you still have to do all that yourself. But yeah, they're known for that. A lot of people like their cold smoke generators. Makes cold smoking a lot easier because the fire is away from even in the chamber. So if you really like cold smoking, it could be a good thing. You could maybe rock both the heavy D and the big Kahuna. So now, this new Sportsman program is also really interesting. It's an extra $25, and it is just an algorithm that they will program into the controller for getting really low temperatures in your chamber, in the hundreds, right? So if jerky is your game, with that fan, and that algorithm, you can probably do it really well. I'm not sure how easy it would be to do without that algorithm for controlling the fan and the heat with the pellets, but with it, apparently it's a lot easier. Now the shipping options. One of the great things is you can get basically free shipping if you have a freight terminal near you. I have several near me. So when I actually got my offset smoker, I picked it up from a freight terminal that was about a little bit farther than I wanted. There's ones closer, but just the company they used, it was like a 40-minute drive. But if you want to save on shipping, it's really great that way. If you want that home delivery, though, it's going to be $150. Also, interestingly enough, they have a double size version. I didn't put this on any of the charts, but I just thought I'd throw it in there just so you could see it. The double D, it's about $3,000. And considering how much some of these next few smokers are going to be price wise, what you get here with the double D is pretty good. You look at that thing, it's like, wow, that's a lot of space for that price. And now we've got the Lone Star Grills. They are built near Houston, so they're the first of two American-made cabinet-style smokers we're going to talk about that use pellets. This thing has just dropped. It is, out there on their website for pre-orders right now. By the time you watch this, maybe it'll be a regular product, or who knows? Maybe there won't be any demand for it, and they'll drop it completely. Who can say? But right now, the price is $3,895. And if you're familiar with their other pellet grills, you'll notice that there are a lot of similar features here. Bottom right, you got the ceramic hot air igniter, open center auger. The idea is there's a like a slide for pellets to go down. Why would you want to slide? Burn back is the main answer. With some of these others that just push the pellets right into the cup, sometimes the fire will move backwards through the auger, and you'll get this smoke coming out of your hopper. It's usually not a super big deal, and there's some things you can do to keep that from happening. One is to get more oxygen to your fire cup. There was I think an episode I did when I talked about Pellet Pro's fire cup, upgrading to that, and how it had an extra hole to get more oxygen there. But the slide really makes it so that that'll just never happen. So that's a good thing. The other thing is like how open this fire cup is really allows for better smoke creation. Having those pellets spread out more open allows them to smolder more. So a lot of people out there in the pellet grilling community believe that Lone Star Grills has cracked the code to getting the best smoke just using the pellets, right? So, we had the Camp Chef Pro and Pellet Pro just previously using whole wood to get more smoke flavor in here. But a lot of the Lone Star Grills people say, you can just use your pellets and you'll get really amazing smoke with this product. So if that's what's important to you, maybe that is what you want to do. We've got the pellet dump, direct grilling mode. So the thing about all these smokers that I've been talking about so far, and everyone in this episode, is that these are not grills; they are smokers. But yeah, they still included that grilling slide back plate here, and that is unique. Um, in that one very small section of this smoker, you can do some grilling, and that you can't say that about any of these other ones. So maybe that is the feature that puts it over the edge for you for getting this one. Now, the outside removable burn pot, you can remove the burn pot, dump the ashes, just like you can do with the cup with the Camp Chef. So it has that feature. It's got a 10 by 34 inch folding table, so that's nice. Fireboard controller. Yeah, 6 probe capacity, comes with 2 and 1 meat probes and 1 ambient temperature probe. I believe the ambient temperature probe is the controller probe. That's the one that your set temperature is working towards. I'm not entirely sure if you can like put it where you want in the machine or if it's just where it is, but I don't know if it has a fixed location in this one or not. 4 slide out racks, 6-inch clearance. That means that you have enough room to cook most of the things that you would want to cook in a smoker. I'm not entirely sure if a turkey's going to fit in that 6-inch clearance, but probably your chickens would, your pork butts, your briskets, and what have you. And I kind of the top of that picture really was making it hard to see. I brightened it up. You can see there on the bottom left, they have 3 removable sausage hanging rods, and you can see them just a teensy bit better with the way that I brightened that picture. You've got the smokestack damper that gives you a little bit of control. Tell-True thermometer, storage rack on the bottom. 5-inch wheels come standard. Now, the one thing about this is that I believe the more left picture shows you actual 5-inch wheels. The right side wheels look like they're 8 inches to me. And it also looks like the shelf is stainless steel. If you take a look at that top part there. Lone Star Grills is known for their a la carte upgrades, which really can, if you do a lot, it turns into sort of a nickeling and diming kind of thing where you can get a product that's a lot more than the base. But the thing about what they have on their website now is that they don't have all those options available yet. I imagine that you could go to some of their other pages and see what options there are there, and most of them would probably be the same prices to add on to this. And when you're doing your pre-order now, you could probably keep some of those prices in mind. Maybe, when they contact you, maybe they would give you some sort of price sheet about those, and you could decide then if you wanted any of them. All right, and now the last smoker, we have Cookshack. This thing is built in Oklahoma, so it's the second of our American-built ones here on this episode. Fast Eddies by Cookshack, the FEC 100 pellet smoker oven for $5,880. All right, so this thing has been around for a good while now. I guess you could say it's an oldie but a goodie. Complete stainless steel construction, and that accounts for a lot of the cost of this thing. Is stainless steel costs more than regular steel. Also, it has their trademark 850 degrees spin glass insulation. And I don't exactly know what that means, but apparently, I guess it means somehow they make glass that is spun and they stuff it in the sides, and this thing really holds in some heat very well. All of the racks are there in this one, but it only includes 4 nickel-plated shelves. You can notice that the deflector plate is there over the bottom, and it's not the same plate as the grease plate that's right above. Also has the pallet slides. We talked about that with the previous entry here from Lone Star Grills. Pellet slide keeps it from doing any sort of burn back. Got a grease pan underneath. You just slide that out. The controller is interesting here. They call it the IQ5 electronic time and temperature controller. Apparently, there's some patents in it. It says precisely regulated patented wood delivery system. What those patents are, I'm not entirely sure. You get a really good view of it. This thing will do a lot of programming for you. So you can set times and temperatures on this thing, and it will carry out your instructions for a cook, right? It's a little bit different from some of the other ones wherein, it's connected by Wi-Fi and you sort of just direct it when you want to change it. This one's not Wi-Fi, but you can kind of set up what you want to happen beforehand. One thing that I was confused about, it looks like the right side, that little cap that's open, is for probes. But when we go to the next page and we look at that meat probe, we see the connector there. Looks like it's more for that other side. And it's a different sort of connector for a probe that maybe allows for more electrical data input something. I'm not sure. I'm not a technician. I don't know exactly what that connector is called, but it's different for most of the ones you see for probes, and maybe in a better way. So the cover you got there for $190, a rib rack for $97. I think that it just slides in to the rack thing. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't seen it in any pictures like that, but that is my hope and guess. If you want more of those racks, the standard nickel plated is $28.50. If you want to go full stainless steel, it's $101. And now for charts. All right, and we're going to start off with the price. We got the Onyx down there at $474, and for having that PID controller, it's not the biggest one. We'll see that in a second. Not a bad price. The Pitboss Pro there for $499, also with that upgraded controller. The Oakford 1400, $499 as well. Pitboss 5 vertical, probably a little bit bigger than some of the others, $648. The Brunswick at $698. The Pitboss 7 Series vertical, $800. The Pro 1529, $899. The Camp Chef there at $900. Louisiana Grills at $999. Pellet Pro 2300 at $1,600. Lone Star Grills cabinet at $38.95, and then the FEC 100 from Cookshack, $58.80. And just to show you the prices a little bit more closely and their differences, I took out the outlier there with the Cookshack one, just so you can see those. All right, now we got the hopper size in pounds of pellets. Cookshack down there with the very smallest 20-pound hopper. The XXL Pro for 30, Pellet Pro 35, Lone Star Grills with 40. Now you get the back loading hoppers that are going to be a lot bigger. Pitboss 7 with 55, 5 Series with 60, Louisiana Grills 60, the Onyx 65, Pitboss Pro 65, Pro 1529 with 70, the Oakford with 80, and that Brunswick with a huge 98. Now, one thing that I want to say about the Cookshack over there is that the heat retention on that thing is probably so good that having 20 pounds of pellets is probably going to go a lot further than any of these other ones that don't have that sort of insulation. It's also probably going to make it so that you can have a fire with lower temperatures, keeping the heat about at a similar temperature as well. And having a lower temperature fire is going to lead to more smoke. So, in all, it probably works out pretty well for Cookshack despite having that smaller hopper. All right, and now we've got temperature range in degrees Fahrenheit. We start with the lowest temperatures that these smokers can get to and go in that order. You see the FEC 100 can go 130 to 400. Some of these others can go 130 to 420. A few of these pit bosses. Then we have the Cam Chef 150 to 350, which I believe is the smallest range that we have here, perhaps. The Oakford, maybe over there, also has a similarly small range on the very far end of the chart. Some of that probably has to do with the lack of a double wall in the housing of that smoker. Now, then we have the Pro 1077 with 150 to 420. Several more of the pit bosses there. 150 to 420, including the Louisiana Grills, which is, a cousin of Pitboss. We get to the LSG cabinet, 160 to 400. And then now the thing about that, of course, is they have that grill sliding plate. That is likely going to be able to get you much higher, if you want to do that searing. So we should probably mention that the Pellet Pro 160 to 450 and that Oakford 180 to 400. All right, and now we have the inches squared, the included rack. So we're going to have another slide in a second. Pitboss Pro 1077 there on the bottom with 1,077 inches squared. Now, one thing to remember when you're thinking about this amount of space is that in general, the vertical configuration is going to give you a lot more room. So that number at the very bottom, 1077, compared to something like a horizontal smoker pellet grill, is going to be on the high end of them. So think about how much room do you really need. We go into the Brunswick 1164 is a little bit more. The Camp Chef Pro at 1204. Now that's not including the jerky racks. We're going to see that in the next slide if you do add those in. Pellet Pro 2300 only included racks 1260. That doesn't include the rib rack, which how can you figure out the inches squared on a rib rack? You can't. So it's an add-on that really we can't figure into our calculations here. The Onyx with the 1300, Oakford with the 1388, the 5 vertical with the 1513, the Pro 1529, 1529 up there, FEC 100 a little bit more with 1564, Pitboss 7 vertical, 1815. Louisiana Grills, that price, we talked about the price being high. We said the space was one of its attributes that was good, and that's 2,059 square inches there. The Lone Star Grills cabinet comes in at the very top with 3,648, which is a whole lot of room. It's big. It's it's a lot of space for any grill. So yeah, that's a big boy. All right, we're gonna look at dollar per inches squared for those numbers. Okay, so the Onyx is gonna come in with the Nexgrill at the best there with 36 cents per square inch. Then the Pitboss 5, the Pitboss 7, the Pro 1077, Louisiana Grill 7 with all of its space, Pro 1529, the Brunswick, neck and neck there, but the Pro 1529 takes it by a cent. The XXL Pro, the Lone Star Grills cabinet at $1.07, Pellet Pro 2300 $1.27, and then of course the FEC 100, the outlier with its stainless steel up there at $376. If we include the extra racks, this is what we have, and I kept them in the same order just so you could see the difference. Okay, so you see that XXL Pro with the camshaft jumps up quite a bit, 2107. The same price there if you just use the jerky racks as regular racks. You have to add $99 to get the extra racks for the Pellet Pro 2300, but that'll bring you up to $29.40. We jump over here to the Cookshack, and if you add $85.50, now this is with the nickel plated, it's not with the stainless. That would be a whole lot more, but it brings you up to $27.37. Okay, so you can see how these numbers are rivaling the regular numbers for these other smokers, and hopefully that'll help you decide. Now, of course, that doesn't take into account the clearance, and I'm going to have another chart in a second called area where we'll look at that. Now, the dollar per inches squared, and I did the same thing with this. So when we look at that camshaft over there, you notice it drops down to 43 cents per square inch, which is on par with the Pitboss 5 vertical. We have the Pellet Pro, it drops down to 58 cents, which puts it in line a little bit better with the Pro 1529. The Cookshack drops down some, but it's still way up there at 218. Stainless steel, man, just makes those prices so high. All right, now area in cubic feet. So a few caveats here. I'm not entirely sure whether or not all of these numbers represent the cooking area only or the entire chamber. So, the cooking area is where the racks are. The entire chamber might include the pellet cup, where the fire is, and a slide. It could include all of that. But these numbers are in general. Also, I couldn't find the area of the Onyx or the Nexgrill, so that is what it is. Now, for the XXL Pro, we have it at 3.3. So, according to these numbers, it is the smallest. The Pro 1077 with 3.5 cubic feet, Pro 1529 with 4.3, 5 vertical 4.6, as well as the Brunswick. The FEC 100 is 5.4. One note on this, that is the cooking area only. So, the whole slide thing, whatever, that's not counted in there here. The Pitboss 7 vertical 5.6, Louisiana Grills 7 6.2, Pellet Pro 2300 is 8 cubic feet. Now, the Lone Star Grills, this is my estimation just from looking at the clearances, the size of the racks. My estimate is that it has about 14.8 cubic feet of area. Just by crunching those numbers, it may be a little bit more, it may be a little bit less, but that is fairly close. And that doesn't include the area below the racks. So yes, it is very large, and it has a lot of space. That is the truth of the matter for the Lone Star Grills cabinet. All right, and if we do dollar per cubic foot, some very high numbers here for the dollars, just the way that it worked out. The 5 vertical is the cheapest with the Pro 1077, the 7 vertical, the Brunswick, Louisiana Grills 7, then Pro 2300 there from Pellet Pro, the Pro 1529, the Lone Star Grills, the camshaft, and then the FEC 100. They're at 1,082.76 per cubic foot. If we take out the outliers there, you can see it a little bit better on this slide. Now, weight in pounds. Another thing, sometimes you don't know the difference between shipping weight and actual weight. I think for the pit bosses, you look in the manual, and I believe these are the actual weights. But for the camp chef, not entirely sure. Um, some of these are slight estimates. But let's take a look at these numbers as well. That Onyx comes in at the lightest. Then the vertical 5, vertical 7, Louisiana Grills 7, then the Camp Chef Pro. The Camp Chef Pro is a lot smaller than that Louisiana Grills 7s. That means that it has a lot more material in there. It's not as much just air. The Pro 1077 there. So these Pro grills from Lowe's do seem to be a little bit more weighty. Maybe that means they're a little bit better built. The Oakford there has a lot of weight in it. The Pro 1529, Pellet Pro 2300, the Brunswick, also a very weighty grill. I think, they had the stainless steel in there, so it is built out pretty well. The FEC 100, this is the shipping weight, that 416. That means it's going to be a little bit less than that. How much less? I can't exactly say. Maybe 50 to 100 pounds. I'm not sure. They put the pallet in there. Some of the shipping weight is just for shippers to have numbers to go by when or making their trucks up. So exactly how that works, I'm not sure. Lone Star Grill's cabinet, though, is by far the weightiest at 665. Lone Star Grills has a reputation for building their pits really well with good heavy materials. But that does make it so it can be harder to move around. So keep that in mind, especially when you're deciding which wheels to put on it. Bigger wheels are easier to move. Dollar per pound. Okay. The Oakford comes out the best at 310, Pitboss Pro at 1077, Brunswick, Onyx, Vertical, Pro 1529, Pitboss 7, Lone Star Grills cabinet, Camp Chef Pro, Louisiana Grill 7, Pellet Pro 2300, and of course the Cookshack. My thoughts. Now I gave you all those charts, but one thing that the charts don't really show is the features, the innovations, right? How well they work. Okay, so that is something that I want you to know can't really be reflected in the charts that well. So when we look at these things, we have to keep that in mind. Pitboss, I would go with over Nexgrill. Maybe they're getting the kinks out of that thing still. They don't have as much experience with these kind of smokers as Pitboss does. So on the side of store bought box store, I would go Pitboss over Nexgrill. Camp Chef, now that's a hard one. I really like that smoker box drawer. You can get a similar kind of thing going with a smoke tube, perhaps. So if you think you can do better with one of those for adding smoke flavor, I prefer whole wood, so I would probably get that Camp Chef. For my needs, I think it would work fine. The area in there, the clearance for all those racks isn't super great. So if you're thinking you're going to be making food for a lot of people, maybe that would be a strike against it. But as far as like actual flavor, I think that drawer will help you make some of the best flavor for any of these box store bought grills. It is on the most expensive side, but that is just one consideration. One last thing to say about the box store smokers is that occasionally they'll have, manufacturing problems, and you'll get a defective unit. A lot of the bad reviews you see on these smokers have to do with that. So sometimes the numbers reflect that when you look at, star ratings for these things. The cheaper you go in general, the more often you'll find that, and the companies are more difficult to get the replacement parts from. you get what you pay for. That's the basic principle for these things. You may have a great experience, but you may have a terrible experience as well, and it's something of a crapshoot to figure out which it's going to be. For the other three, the Pellet Pro, the Lone Star Grills, and the Cookshack, I really love Pellet Pro. I think that they are well built despite being built out of country. I have considered buying that smoker myself. Ultimately, I went in a different direction. Having had used the Heavy D stick burning heat diffuser, liked it a lot. Would consider using that again. The one thing is you can't really reload it after you're going, but in general, you don't need to, just because it gives you enough smoke in that early period where it makes the most difference. This thing is super versatile with, the rib racks, the jerky fan. You don't see that on any of these other ones. I think that if that is your price range, I think Pellet Pro could be a really good option. Now, of course, the Lone Star Grills, I think that it is a little bit too big for. It's hard to imagine needing that much space. So I don't think that I would be really interested in that for like a backyard application. I think more if you were going to start doing pop-ups or catering, that maybe Lone Star Grills, this one would be where you'd want to go. I think in other cases, you would probably just want to get the 42-inch of the smaller version that's cheaper. I think this thing's about like $1,000 more. Do you really want to go $1,000 more to have so much space like that? That's a question you'd be asking yourself if you were looking at this grill. Maybe you would, but for most people, I don't think it's worth it. The Cookshack, wildly expensive, but the people who have it like it a lot. They say that it makes really good barbecue. Like I was saying before, I think that having that insulation will allow the fire to be at a lower temperature, which will give you better smoke. It's going to last forever with that stainless steel. It's very simple, works well. So if you have the money, I wouldn't blame you for going that route. Most people don't have that much though. So I can also understand why most people would give it a pass. All right, that's it. Those are my thoughts. What about your thoughts? Please put those down in the comments. If you have any of these smokers, put a review there. Tell us your experience. That's invaluable to the listeners and watchers of this show. So we'd like to help each other out in this community of barbecue buyers guides. Thank you for watching, and you know what, y'all? Go get your smoke on.